Looking for a fairy tale filled with fascinating female characters who drive the story, are complex, refreshing, and interesting, and don't conform to typical stereotypes? Then join me for The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen. Snow Queen is one of Andersen's longest fairy tales, and it's written in novel form in 7 chapters. I first came across this story years ago when the first Frozen movie came out because it claimed to be a retelling of this fairy tale. It is not. I mean, I guess you could say it is. They both involve snow and someone rescuing someone they love. That's pretty much it. Like just about all of Andersen's stories, this has some heavy Christian themes in it, and it starts out with the devil. The devil takes the form of a troll and makes this mirror that magnifies ugly, evil things and minimizes beautiful, good things when you look at it. So they take it all over the world to distort things, and then they try to take it up to heaven to mock God and the angels. They aren't able to get in there because the mirror shatters into pieces, but then shards of it fall all over the earth. Some ends up in window panes, some in people's glasses, some gets into people's eyes and in their hearts. The devil's like, even better, love that. So a very cool, dark beginning, this idea that seeing the world as a dark, cruel place and not seeing the beauty in it and being bitter isn't of God, it's evil. So then we get to our main character, Gerda, and her friend Kay, and they are childhood friends who live in like the uppermost part of these apartment buildings in the city. They are able to communicate in the turrets between their building where there's like flowers and innocence and stuff. Roses are their thing. Like roses always makes them think of each other and think of their love. But one day a shard of that mirror gets in Kay's eye and he starts to change. He becomes cruel and aggressive and doesn't care about Gerda anymore, doesn't respect her as a person because of the evil in his eye. And she's hurt, but like holds out hope for their friendship. So one day Kay goes out and encounters the Snow Queen. She kisses him to numb him from the cold and then takes him with her. People have said that C.S. Lewis's Witch in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, who's also like icy and cold and rides a similar sleigh, is based on the Snow Queen. One key difference, though, is that the Snow Queen is not evil. In a sense, she's an antagonist, but not evil. Neutral as nature, which we'll get to in a little bit. So the town people assume Kay is dead and that he drowned in the river. So in spring, when the river thaws, Gerda takes her red shoes as an offering to the river to get Kay back. Interesting that it's red shoes considering Hans Christian Andersen's The Red Shoes. She throws her shoes into the water and they come back. And so she's like, well, I need to go out further. And so she gets in a boat, goes out further to throw her shoes, but ends up getting washed away like to a place she's never been before. So she finds herself at the house of this woman who is a sorceress and has always wanted a daughter, so she wants to keep Gerda. She uses her magic to make her forget about Kay and even causes all the roses in her rose garden to sink back down into the earth so they won't remind her of Kay. But after she has Gerda for a while, she must forget, and she has a rose in her hat one day that Gerda sees. She remembers everything and she cries, and her tears make the roses come back up from the earth. And the roses tell her Kay is not dead because they've been underground and they would know. So she runs away to go find Kay now that she knows he's alive. So she meets this crow who says, I might have seen Kay. There's this distant princess who is so clever and smart, she would only marry a man who could respect that. She wanted a man who would speak when spoken to and not just stand there and be grand and stupid, but interesting. So one day a man shows up, of course not to impress her, but just because he's heard how clever she is and he wants to listen to her and hear her cleverness. So she's like, this is my guy, this is what I want in a man, and she marries him. I think that story is so great just on its own. So the crow takes Gerda there thinking maybe Kay was this man that the princess married. And she's like, if that's true and he's happy, then great, I just want to find out. Because apparently they're like teenagers now, they're no longer children. So they get there, they find out it's not Kay, but the princess is super generous and she's like, I respect what you're doing. Here, take my golden carriage. Good luck on your journey. So next she encounters this group of robbers that's led by a female robber, and her daughter, the little robber girl, is one of my favorite characters in this story. They want to kill her, but she's like, no, I want to keep her as my playmate. And this girl is described as wild and wicked, but she's complex because she's so good too. When she hears Gerda's story, she offers to help her. This girl has 100 pigeons and a pet reindeer and sleeps with a knife in her teeth because you never know what might happen. One of the birds has seen Kay and says, I know where he is in Lapland. And the reindeer is like, hey, I'm from there. I can get you guys there. So the robber girl frees both of them, says, take my reindeer, go rescue your friend. The reindeer first takes her to the Lapland woman who can't help her, but is so cool. She writes on a piece of dead fish and sends her to her sister with this message in Finland. So the Finland woman reads the note and then goes ahead and cooks the fish and eats it in a soup because she doesn't waste anything. So she is a wise woman, sorceress, but not necessarily the stereotype. The reindeer asked her to give Gerda a potion that would give her the strength of 12 men, and she's like, she don't need that. This girl with her pure heart has already got everything she needs. She has determination, love, a heart that sees universal goodness. She says, I cannot give her greater power than she already possesses. And do you not see how great that is? Do you not see that men and beasts must serve her, and how barefooted as she has got on so well in the world? She cannot receive her power from us. That is in her own heart. But she does help finally guide both of them to the Snow Queen's palace. So there are icy monsters guarding the entrance, but she says the Lord's Prayer and her breath takes the form of angels. Golden warriors who thrust spears into the icy monsters, break them into hundreds of pieces, and remove the cold from Gerda's hands and feet, and she enters. This vast, cold, empty palace, and there's a big mirror lake, and Kai's on it having to solve this Chinese puzzle. Apparently, if he can form the word that he's supposed to form, the Snow Queen says she'll release him. And Gerda doesn't fight or battle or anything. She runs up to him, she kisses him, and cries on him, and her tears burn away the shards of mirror inside him. He bursts into tears, and when he, the only masculine character in the story, cries, it gets rid of the cold, unfeeling last splinter that took her from him, that kept him from being loving and giving and engaging with the world. They're so happy that they dance around, and all the splinters that fell out spell the word eternity. That's apparently the word that he was supposed to be forming. The spell is broken, and they're able to leave her domain, again with the help of the reindeer, the Lapp woman, the Finn woman. And they meet the little robber girl who has left her bandit family, wants to start out on her own and not be a robber anymore. She and Gerda rejoice, and she kind of questions Kay, and she's like, I hope you deserve all the effort that Gerda put into finding you. I hope he does too. Then the robber girl says, hey, I'll visit you if I'm ever in town, but I am off to make my way in the great wide world. And she rides off on her reindeer. Love the robber girl. So Kay and Gerda go home, and they find that they have changed. They have grown up, they are in love, and are delighted that it's summer now. When I look at this story, the moral I get from it is that being a woman and being true to who you are, and gentleness and kindness and nurturing, those are all strong, powerful things. And Gerda and all of these women are also strong in the traditional way too, because they're not like slaying dragons or whatever, but they're not giving up. They are journeying on. They're facing trial after trial. And the men in this story are ones who, when they are redeemed, respect that, admire that, see the beauty and awesomeness of that. Every woman in this story is interesting and cool. I mentioned earlier that the Snow Queen isn't even evil. She's kind of as neutral as nature itself. We never really know why she takes Kay, why she wants him. And yes, her taking him drives the story, but the real conflict started when the only actually evil character, the devil, when his shards of mirror got into Kay. That was when the real conflict started, and that was the thing that needed solving and fixing. You could even argue that it's good that she took him, because maybe he needed that. Maybe she froze him and numbed him before the shards could get all the way into his heart, saving him and keeping him until Gerda could get there and save him herself, when it was time, when she was ready, when she had grown enough. Then the woman who wants to keep Gerda is just doing it out of a place of wanting companionship. She's selfish, and what she does is wrong, but she's not a traditional fairy tale stereotype. Her powers don't make her evil, because the Lapland woman and the Finn woman have similar powers, and they're not evil. They are cool as hell. The little robber girl, cool as hell. Am I saying this is a feminist story? Not necessarily. Very unlikely Hans Christian Andersen intended it to be that way. But it is an epic story all about women. And so many of the aspects of what we consider to be femininity are shown to be good and something we should aspire to. If I was a little girl reading this, I would see myself all over it, and I would see lots of role models that I could relate to and aspire to be like. I would see lots of different ways that being a woman is important, interesting, and good. And just reading a story where everyone except for Kay and the devil, and I'm not sure about the reindeer, is a woman, where it's so filled with women, would just make me feel seen. And I freaking love that. A story about sisters and sisters' love and women badassery is my retelling of The 12 Dancing Princesses, or The Shoes That Were Danced to Pieces. Dust Spells by Andrea Lynn. Love and what you'll go through and sacrifice to rescue those you love is definitely present in it. Plus romance, and I like my romantic interest better than Kay, honestly. So check it out. Have a great day.